Welcome, tankers, to the Ground Nation Guide for War Thunder. In this series, we'll be going over the ground forces of every nation in the game, discussing their tanks, playstyles, pros and cons, and much more, starting from the light tanks of the interwar era all the way to the MBTs of the modern age. In this episode, we'll be going over the USA. The American tank tree is one of the biggest and most diverse in the game, featuring lots of tanks for lots of playstyles. If you can't choose one over the other, this tree will let you try out different roles and help you pick your favorites. With some great top tier vehicles as well, the US is a solid choice for anyone, but is it the right choice for you? Let's find out. The American tank line is divided into 5 lines, that being a light, a medium, and a heavy tank line, an SPAA line, and a tank destroyer line. This basic setup has quite a selection of vehicles capable of flanking, sniping, brawling, and much more. Starting it off, we have tiers 1 and 2. If you're just starting off, these ranks will teach you the basics of ground battles. Some of the easiest and most fun tanks to use can be found in the light tank line with the Stuarts, Locust, and the Chaffee. The Stuarts and the M22 Locust are some of the most beginner-friendly tanks in the game, featuring quick-firing cannons and great maneuverability. Unfortunately, they only have access to AP shells without explosive filler, but their aforementioned fire rates make up for that shortcoming. The last light tank of the tier is the M24 Chaffee, which is another very solid vehicle. The Chaffee packs a much better cannon with more powerful shells, while still retaining the speed of its predecessors. Its BR is higher than the Stuarts and Locusts, but this will teach you to be sneaky and to flank properly. This skill will be crucial to have in the later tiers. Next in line are the medium tanks with the M3 Lee and M4 Shermans. The Lee is a strange looking tank equipped with both a 75 and a 37mm cannon. This unorthodox design is surprisingly effective if used properly. If your first shot doesn't take the enemy out, just shoot him again with the other cannon. You can also use a 37mm to bait enemies out, then hit him with a 75 to deal some damage. If you're looking for something more conventional though, the Sherman is the tank for you. The M4A1 and A2 line of tanks are some of the most iconic medium tanks in the world. Featuring a stabilized 75mm cannon as well as some decent mobility, the Shermans are exactly what you need to start your journey into mid-tier tank combat. Provided you don't face any glass cannons, the frontal plate of the Sherman's hull is pretty effective at stopping shells, so the tanks are perfectly suited for the support role. Capture points, help your allies, and win some battles. Moving to the SPAA line, you'll find the M16 and the T77. These two are some of the most effective anti-airs at this tier, equipped with 4 and 650 cals respectively. If you manage to land some hits, you can shred any aircraft to pieces with just a couple bursts. Unlike the Warble and Oswin though, these two don't exactly have much anti-tank capabilities, so you're gonna have to stay on air patrol duty. Armor isn't exactly their strong suit either, so you have to keep your surroundings in check at all times. Play carefully and you can shoot down any plane on your path. And lastly, we have the tank destroyers with the M3 GMC, the M4 105, and the M10. While it might not seem like much, the M3 is quite a deadly force to be reckoned with. If you set up in a good vantage point, you can easily wipe out any tank with its powerful 75mm cannon. Its armor and maneuverability are quite underwhelming though, so make sure to stay hidden. As for the M4A3 105, it's a Sherman tank with a 105mm howitzer, equipped with a deadly heat round with lots of stopping power. Once you fire said howitzer though, you're gonna have to wait a decent while for the reload to finish. Its turret traverse is also extremely poor, being almost 6 times slower than the M4A1. Besides all that though, it's a run-of-the-mill Sherman. A much more interesting tank is the M10, equipped with a 76mm cannon with some powerful shells. It shares the mind-numbingly slow turret traverse of the Sherman 105, which is its biggest downside. To make matters worse, it's also open top, so machine guns and enemy aircraft can mess you up. So, like with the M3 GMC, find a good place to stay in and snipe your enemies from a distance. Its cannon is more than powerful enough to deal with any enemy you come across. Up next we have Tier 3 with some of the most iconic tanks in the American tech tree. In the light tank line we have the infamous M18, one of my personal favorites. The Hellcat features a powerful 76mm cannon similar to the one found on the M10, but with the added benefit of being incredibly mobile. This thing is the very definition of a flanker. You drive to the edge of the map when the battle starts and take enemies out from the side. Afterwards, relocate to a different spot and repeat. Armor on the M18 is pretty much non-existent, so if an enemy sees you, you're more than likely gonna die in one shot. If you play it properly though, you'll rack up kills with ease. Next up in the medium tank line we have the Sherman 76s. These M4s get a big upgrade in the firepower department with the new stabilized 76mm cannon, the same as on the M18. Mobility is pretty much the same as the earlier Shermans, but the M4A276 does get a slight upgrade. At these tiers though, you definitely can't depend on your armor to save you, because anything with even a slightly powerful gun can take you out from any angle. Luckily, the 76mm cannon allows you to play from a distance, so medium range sniping is a possibility. The support role is still its bread and butter though. Following the medium tank line comes the new heavy tank line, featuring the M6A1, Jumbo, and T1E1. The M6 is an interesting tank. It has the speed and firepower of a heavy, but the armor is mediocre. While it is decent, many enemies at this BR can pierce you. The trade-off is its powerful 76mm cannon, backed by a secondary 37mm, making it highly effective on the offense. Stick with teammates to cover your back and you'll be a serious threat. Next is the M4A3E2 Jumbo. The M6 had a good cannon but bad armor, and this thing is the complete opposite. Its thick frontal plating can block nearly anything at its BR, as long as they don't hit the machine gun port. Its weaponry is its weak point though, featuring the same 76mm cannon as on the tier 2 Shermans. That gun might have been decent at 3.3, but at 5.7 you're gonna have a hard time penning much of anything. Still, the Jumbo thrives in close range brawls, provided you avoid exposing your side. Your allies can deal the damage while you tank the hits. Finally, there's the T1E1, essentially an M6 with upgraded firepower in the form of a 90mm cannon. That might sound nice, but it sits at a higher BR, and with no significant upgrades to its armor, it's pretty much a glass cannon. It's best used as a medium to long range sniper. Next we have the SBAA line with the M19 and M42. Armed with dual 40mm bolfers, these two anti-airs pack quite a punch. Aiming them is a different story though. When engaging aircraft from a distance, it's quite difficult to land a hit. Compared to the multi-50 cal loadout of previous SBAAs, you need to lead a lot more with the bolfers since their muzzle velocity is much lower. If you actually want to use these two effectively, using them against tanks is a much better idea. The 40 mils can take out a lot of enemies from the side, and combine that with their mobility and you have a versatile tank destroyer. Armor is obviously non-existent though, so play them carefully. Finally, we have the tank destroyers, the M44 and M36, two very different vehicles. The M44 is a classic derp gun with a devastating 155mm cannon, packing nearly 10 kilograms of TNT per shell. Anything you hit will turn to ash, but it's not easy to do so. The shells have very low velocity, the gun has a long reload, and the tank has no armor. Your best bet is to stay hidden and take shots at nearby enemies. On the other hand, we have the M36, the big brother of the M10. Its firepower is where it shines, featuring a deadly 90mm cannon with almost 300 mils of pen on its APCR shell. On top of that, it also has a much faster turret traverse and better mobility compared to its predecessor. However, its armor is still pretty weak, and the open top turret leaves you vulnerable. Play it like a hybrid of the M10 and M18. Get away from the main action, snipe enemies from a distance, and relocate every once in a while. Now we move on to Tier 4, featuring tanks between the end of World War II and the Cold War. The light tank line contains the M41 Walker Bulldog and the T92. These two tanks are perfect examples of the flanker role, with excellent mobility while also packing a good punch. While neither of them have APHE rounds, they make up for it with high velocity APDS shells instead, with up to 300 mils of pen. Combine that with their great mobility and you have some excellent rapid response vehicles capable of dealing with heavy armor. Once you do deal with them though, make sure to relocate, as neither of them have much armor to speak of. The stock grind on both can be pretty painful, but once you get some modifications, you can turn them into killing machines. Next up, we have the medium tanks with the M4T26, the M26, and the M46. The M4T26 is a peculiar looking hybrid of the Sherman and Pershing, with the hull of the former and the turret of the latter. The result is a glass cannon with decent firepower but no armor to speak of. Your best bet is to stay hull down in the shadows and snipe enemies from a distance. Moving on from Frankenstein's tank, we have the M26 Pershing and the M46 Patton. If you're used to playing the Sherman, these two will make you feel right at home. The Pershing and Patton are versatile medium tanks that can be used in a number of roles. They're classic jacks of all trades, having decent armor, mobility, as well as firepower. The Patton allows you to play a bit more aggressively thanks to its better engine and powerful heat-FS rounds. That being said, they're also masters of none. Relying too much on your armor can be a death sentence. The tanks are sluggish without modifications and the stock shells are unreliable. As long as you play them carefully though, you should perform pretty well. Like the Shermans, they're best suited for the support role, but you can definitely be flexible in how you play. Up next are the heavy tanks with the M4A3E276, T26, and the T34. The Jumbo 76 is a jumbo with a 76mm cannon. Who'da thunk it? Close quarters combat is where this thing shines, with its thick frontal armor and decent firepower. At long range though, you're gonna suffer at this BR, as heavier opponents like the Tiger II and Jagdpanther can take you out pretty easily, while you can't do much against them. Next is the T26E5. You know how the Jumbo is a more armored Sherman? Well, the T26 is the same but with the M26 Pershing. Compared to the Jumbo 76, it features slightly better mobility as well as a much more powerful cannon, but they fill essentially the same niche, that being urban brawling. Its frontal plate can withstand small to medium caliber cannons, making it well suited for CQC. And lastly, we have the T34. No, not that one. The American T34 is the definition of overkill, with a massive 120mm cannon as well as a new hull design with great armor. Mobility is not its strong suit, but who needs speed when you have the aforementioned? It is quite a massive tank though, and its turret is like a giant weak spot. Like with all the heavy tanks in this line, if you protect your flanks and have some allies supporting you, you can wipe out anything that stands in your path. Unlike the previous heavy tanks though, you should use the T34 at medium to long ranges, as its reload rate is lackluster and it only carries solid shot ammo without explosive filler. Following the heavy tanks is the SPAA line, featuring the Skank. Its quad 20mm cannons sound good on paper, but fall short on practice due to poor muzzle velocity and frequent reloads with its 30 round belts. It doesn't have much anti-tank capabilities either, with only 38 mils of pen on its AP rounds. Your best bet is honestly just sticking with the M19 or T77. And finally, we have the tank destroyers with the M109, M56, and M50. The M109 is a self-propelled howitzer featuring a 155mm cannon that can annihilate anything it hits. Armor is pretty much non-existent, while mobility is alright. Medium and long-range engagements are your go-to with this thing. On the opposite side of the tank destroyer spectrum, we have the M56 Scorpion and M50 Ontos. These two rats take flanking to a whole new level. Being both very tiny and extremely mobile, you can be a massive pain on the enemy side if you use them properly. Firepower on the Scorpion is quite solid with up to 300 mils of pen on its heat effect shell. The Ontos, however, is just completely excessive with 6 recoilless rifles that can be fired one after another, and each of them have almost 450 mils of pen. Their armor is the only thing you have to worry about, but that's a given. If you have decent map knowledge and experience, you can easily run rings around anything you face, quite literally. Next up, we have Tier 5, featuring early Cold War tanks. The light tank line contains the XM800T, the little brother of the Bradley. Its main quality is its mobility, with a respectable top speed of 88 kph, or 55 mph. Everything else falls short though. It doesn't have much armor to speak of, and its main gun can't do much with only 66 mils of pen on its APDS round. Conventional engagements against tanks are obviously a no-go, so you're gonna have to get creative. Embrace the rat playstyle and flank, hide, and annoy enemy vehicles. Next, we have the medium tank line with the M47 and M60. While it's classified as a medium tank, the M47 is pretty much a glass cannon. Mobility and firepower are its strong suits, with up to 320 mils of pen on its heat effect shell, a rangefinder, as well as a top speed of 50 kph or 31 mph. The stock grind is pretty rough though, with lackluster stock shells and mediocre maneuverability. As for the M60, it's a great jack of all trades. It's got decent firepower, mobility, as well as armor, making it quite a versatile tank. It's best used in medium to long range engagements, as urban combat is not its specialty. If you keep your distance, its frontal armor is pretty effective at stopping shells. With up to 400 millimeters of pen, you can take care of enemies with ease. Following the mediums, we have the heavy tanks with the T-32 and M103. The T-32 is a bit of a mixed bag. It's got decent frontal armor, especially on its turret, and it has some good mobility for a heavy tank. It's not amazing, but it's not terrible either. A much more interesting tank is the M103 though. If the T-34 was overkill, this thing is overkill. This behemoth carries a 120mm cannon with some of the strongest solid shot ammo in the game, as well as a heat effect shell with 380 mils of pen. Its protection is decent, but sadly it suffers from late heavy tank syndrome, where MBTs carrying heat effects and darts render your armor null and void. Overall though, you can find some success with both of these tanks if you play carefully. Next up, we have the SPAA line with the M163. It features a 20mm autocannon with a fire rate of a whopping 3,000 rounds per minute. If an enemy aircraft comes close, you can tear them to shreds in a matter of seconds thanks to its tracking radar. Keyword being close though, as the 163 lacks a search radar and the target needs to be pretty close to get a track on them. Mobility and armor are lackluster though, so your main priority should be either staying out of sight or staying close to allies. Finally, we have the tank destroyer line with the infamous T-95, another one of my favorites. The Doom Turtle is a force to be reckoned with. Its armor is pretty much impenetrable from the front and sides. Its cannon is also very powerful with 250mm of pen on its APHE shell. The sheer psychological effect of seeing an enemy T-95 rolling up to the battlefield is enough for enemies to surrender. That being said, it is also the single slowest vehicle in the game, and if your tracks get destroyed, you are, for lack of a better word, cooked. It's an amazing breakthrough tank that excels with a couple teammates behind you. If you're not a big fan of being in the front line though, it can also be used as a great sniper as well. Now we move on to Tier 6 with some of the later Cold War era tanks. In the light tank line we have the M551 Sheridan and the M3 Bradley. The Sheridan is a more conventional light tank with some great mobility and a decent cannon which can fire both heat as well as ATGMs, with the trade-off being its almost complete lack of armor. If you play it like a classic light tank by constantly moving and staying out of sight, you'll find some success. Use the heat shells up close and ATGMs for sniping. The The M3 Bradley on the other hand is an IFV with a 25mm autocannon as well as a tow missile launcher. The penetration on its cannon is not the best, but the ATGMs make up for that shortcoming. The Bradley is best used in urban environments where you can ambush enemies and take them by surprise. Up next in the medium tank line we have the M60A1 and A3, a pair of modernized M60s. The A1 features a 2-plane stabilizer, while the A3 also has access to APF-SDS rounds and has an additional ERA package, which definitely helps against ATGMs and HEAT-FS shells. That being said, they are still M60s, so you shouldn't be rushing the front line with them. Medium range sniping or the support role is the way to go. Next we have the heavy tank line, which evolves into an MBT line. The T95E1 is a peculiar vehicle. It's got mobility similar to a medium tank, but with decent frontal armor as well as a strong cannon with access to APF-SDS. On the other hand, it lacks a stabilizer, and if you get up-tiered, your armor is practically useless. Play it like a sniper at medium to long ranges and avoid close confrontations. The XM803 is a much more interesting tank though, featuring a 2-plane stabilizer, an autoloader, access to both ATGMs and darts, as well as some great mobility. It marks the transition between the old and heavy designs to a new modern MBT doctrine. Its armor is not to be relied on though, so make sure you stay out of sight. If you use it as a high-speed flanker, you're bound to rack up kills. Following the heavy tanks we have the SBAAs with the M247 and improved chaparral. The Sergeant York features a dual 40mm autocannon loadout with an impressive fire rate as well as some potent ammunition. Its radar has quite the range as well, with 40 km of detection and 10 km of tracking. Its proximity fuse shells are a joy to use as they're pretty much invisible to the enemy and they make hitting targets a lot easier. Until you unlock them though, you might have some difficulty taking planes down. Alongside the M247 we have the improved chaparral with anti-air missiles instead of autocannons. This thing doesn't have a search radar, any anti-tank capabilities, nor any armor, but its missiles are decent at tracking and destroying enemy aircraft. In my opinion though, the Sergeant York is a much better option. Lastly, we have the tank destroyers with the M60A2. This variant of the M60 is a rather unusual one with a 152mm gun/launcher similar to the one found on the Sheridan. It can carry both heat and ATGMs. It features a 2-plane stabilizer and a laser rangefinder, but it's pretty sluggish and the stock heat shell is not very good. It can be a bit tricky to use, but after you get the hang of it and unlock some modifications, it'll be a decent addition to your lineup. And finally, we reach tier 7 and 8 with some of the most advanced tanks in the game. In the light tank line, we have the M3A3 and the HSTVL. The A3 variant of the Bradley upgrades on its predecessor with a laser rangefinder, APF-SDS rounds, tandem charge and top attack tow 2 missiles, and more. These enhancements make it even more versatile than it already was, making it a great support vehicle. As for the HSTVL, it plays more like a classic light tank with excellent mobility, a very fast reload, and a decent cannon. The darts don't have much post-pen damage to speak of though, so you need to aim for weak spots. As you might expect, it also lacks armor, but as a wise man once said, no armor is best armor. It's a great flanker with a playstyle similar to that of the M41 and T92. Next up in the medium tank line we have the 120S and M1A1HC. The 120S is another mix and match like the M4T26, but this time with the hull of the M60 and the turret of the M1A1 Abrams. Its mobility and hull armor are its biggest weak points, but firepower wise it's quite solid. You might find some luck if you use it like a glass cannon in a hold down position. Speaking of the Abrams, the M1A1HC is up next. The heavy common variant of the M1A1 is pretty much just the M1A2 but with soft kill APS and a dozer blade, but without CITV. We'll talk about the Abrams in just a little bit, but all you need to know about the HC is that it's a run-of-the-mill variant with some slight modifications. Next we have the MBT line, featuring the Abrams series of tanks, the pinnacle of the American tank tree. Similarly to the XM803, the Abrams tanks have great mobility as well as firepower. With a couple modifications, you can move from one spot to another very quickly and keep your enemies guessing. The M1 has a decent 105mm cannon, but the A1 and A2 variants have the devastating 120mm smoothbore with up to 600 mils of pen on its APFSDS shell. Armor gets better and better with each variant, with blowout panels and even ERA on the SCP. They all share the same weak spots though, namely their hulls, their turret rings, and their gun mantlets. Use their great mobility and firepower to their advantage by flanking and sniping. Now we move on to the SPAAs with the LAV-AD, XM975, and the ADATs. The Light Armored Vehicle Air Defense is an incredibly fast vehicle with both Stinger SAMs as well as a rapid-firing 25mm autocannon. The Stingers are not exactly the best missiles out there, with only 13 Gs of pull and a bright smoke trail. It's better used as a light reconnaissance vehicle, especially with the Hydra anti-tank rocket loadout. The XM975 on the other hand is solely for anti-air purposes, with the Roland surface-to-air missile setup. The Rolands are pretty maneuverable compared to other SAMs at its BR, but they're also pretty slow and easy to spot. A much better anti-air is the ADATs though, with access to 8 anti-everything missiles that travel quite fast. On top of that, it also features a 25mm autocannon with decent APDS rounds, but sadly it lacks a stabilizer. It has a pretty good radar as well, with long-range detection and a sneaky infrared tracking system. It's a solid vehicle for both anti-air and anti-tank purposes, but you definitely need to know its limits. And at last, we have the tank destroyer line with the M1128. Speed and firepower are the name of the game with this thing. It has a great top speed of almost 100 kph as well as a 105mm cannon with more than 500 mils of pen. As you might expect, it doesn't have much armor, but like with all the light tank destroyers, you need to avoid taking hits in the first place. The Striker shines as a flanker sniper hybrid, avoiding urban areas and using its mobility to its advantage. It's quite a large vehicle, but the turret is unmanned, so if you find a hold down position, you'll be golden. Finally, we reach the conclusion, starting with the pros and cons. The American tank tree is quite diverse, with dedicated lines for pretty much any playstyle you can think of. Its light tank line in particular is notable, with some of the best flankers in the game. If you're a beginner to ground forces, the US is also one of the best nations to start with, featuring tanks that are easy to use and understand. And once you get to top tier, there'll be some strong and competitive tanks waiting for you. There's an abundance of close air support choices as well, so if you're a fan of ground pounding, the Americans have you covered. Lastly, the US is part of the big three, meaning there's a very high chance the tree will get some new additions every update. All that being said though, the tree is also quite massive, and without premiums, it'll take you a good while to get to top tier. And while their top tier is good, it's also pretty repetitive, with the bulk of it consisting of Abrams variants. Their anti-airs can also be a swing and a miss. While they do have some great SPAAs like the T-77 and Sergeant York, you might have to use the same vehicle for a couple of tiers due to some of the more lackluster ones. Now we move on to the rankings. As mentioned previously, the American tank tree features a variety of playstyles, mainly focused on flanking, brawling, and support. Sniping isn't bad, but other nations are just better at it. As for the tier rankings, here they are. The tree starts off quite strong, deteriorates a bit around tiers 4 and 5, but gets back up at tiers 7 and 8. The American air tree features some of the best casts in the entire game, but their anti-airs could be better. And now, should you play the American tank tree? If you're a beginner, like I've said over and over again, go for it. The early tanks are easy to use, and the tree slowly introduces you to some of the more intricate tactics and playstyles. If you're looking for a new nation to grind, America is a decent choice. It's got some great tanks for many different playstyles, but if you're focused on getting to top tier, it's gonna take a while due to the sheer size of the tree. And if you're just looking to have some fun, the tree is a great choice, with some of my personal favorites being the M18 and T95.